Great. Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, March 1. This is our Policy Personnel Committee of the Connecticut Family Medical Leave. So good morning, everyone. And we'll have a call to order and attendance by Amber.
Thank you. All right. Eva Bermuda Zimmerman.
Present.
Britt Marie Cole Johnson.
Present.
Carol Dudzinski.
Present.
Mike Soltis. Mike has not yet joined us. And Paul Picamianos.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Great. Thank you, Amber. Again, public members that are joining our meeting. All right. We have the February 1 meeting minutes. Looking for a review. Any questions, comments, corrections? Hearing none. Looking for an approval.
Make a motion to approve.
A second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Abstain? Wonderful. Meeting minutes are passed. And the next update with Aaron is regarding our proposed policies. To you, Aaron.
Great. So actually, I'm going to ask Michael to just give a quick update on where we're doing on our policies.
Thank you, Aaron. So I think we've got a few categories of policies. They're all in different states of the life cycle of the policy. So I just want to do a quick snapshot of where we are. There was kind of our oldest policy conversation where there were two things that we took off of the list of consolidated policies that we discussed back in November, December. The minimum wage conversation and then the transition rules around private plans. The minimum wage we eventually did, the board did approve last month, I believe it was. And we still have the transition rules for private plans. We're hopeful that we can have a recommendation for the policy in hours, if not days, or days and if not hours. So that's upcoming. The urgent need is mostly for the transition from the public plan to private plans because we have a whole series of new private plans that are about to go into force in about a month, in exactly a month, April 1st. So we just need to make sure we understand what's happening for the claims that are live and the kind of history of someone took leave during this first quarter. Does that count against them under the private plan? Also necessary, but not as urgent is the other way, going from the private plan to the public plan. That can happen potentially anytime, but we're hopeful that most plans are going to be enforced for the 3 years that they were initially approved for. So that's kind of the old policies. We have the more recent policies that were posted last month. We're still in the notice comment period. There's several of those. So once that period is over, we can address any comments or questions that came in and recommend that for the full approval. And then current state, we have a series of policies that we're still working on. We're hopeful to have something in the short term that are sort of brand new policies. There's a couple related to the refund requests that we're receiving for contributions. One on the employer side. So when an employer makes an error and pays too much in contributions, what's the process for them requesting a refund of that? And then a separate policy for refunds related to employees. Primarily, this is employees who work for multiple employers during the course of the year and they contributed more than the Social Security cap, the benefit and contribution base limit, because each employer doesn't realize how much they made with their other employers. So they weren't limiting them in those contributions. So we have a process for refunds for those folks as well. That's not really even error. That's just the way the process is intended to work. We also have a policy recommendation we're going to make about folks who are working and receiving federal or state benefits. For example, Social Security, whether it's disability or retirement, there's a lot of people who are receiving those benefits, working part-time often, contributing into the program. And there's a way to read our statute to say that, well, if they're receiving Social Security, they can't ever receive benefits from us. So we're trying to develop a policy that essentially allows, in that scenario alone, the possibility of receiving benefits from those programs at the same time they're receiving CTPL benefits, essentially saying that it's not concurrent benefits because it's not replacing the same income any longer. So we're hopeful to have something for use shortly on that. And then a couple other random policies about what counts against the wage limit for Social Security, that cap that I mentioned earlier, particularly when someone moves from a private plan to a public plan or public plan to a private plan, whether we count, how we count that, because we might not necessarily know how much they've contributed to the private plan, if anything at all. So if someone changes jobs or has multiple jobs, how to kind of calculate that limit. And then I think Aaron's going to talk a little bit about the audit process. So that's another policy we're working on that's a little bit longer term. We want to get a holistic view. So more to come on those. We still have our list that I think we shared with the board last month, maybe in January. So that's kind of it for now. I'll be happy to answer any questions if anyone has them. Excellent.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Next up on our agenda is the update on, again, the private plan audit process from Aaron. So thank you.
Right, so we have been working primarily Michael, Amber, and I on developing the private plan audit. There are really 4 categories of private plan related topics that we would audit on. The application process, making sure that employers complied with the requirements, particularly relating to the providing their employees with a plain language guide and the vote. Then there's making sure that contributions are kept and used properly and not commingled and not used for any untoward purposes. Third is, are they complying with our standards with regard to claims management? Are they providing employees with the appropriate notice? Are they providing the benefits within the appropriate time frame? And fourth is really on the financials, sort of the solvency of the private plans. With regard to the fourth, we really have 2 different approaches. One, for fully insured plans, the solvency of insurance companies is something that is already audited and regulated by the State Department of Insurance. So we're going to rely on that, but we are working toward developing standards for the self-insured programs to make sure that they remain solvent and have the money that they need to provide the benefits. In developing these sort of 4 categories of audit areas, we are obviously using our statutes. We're also receiving assistance and advice from the State Department of Insurance. They've been very, very helpful. We're seeking information and advice from other states that are further along. It's been a little challenging getting those meetings scheduled, but we're hoping to get those on the books. We were trying to get with Massachusetts today, but that didn't happen. So we're trying to get those on the books so we can utilize their methods as well. And we should be in a situation where we can kind of create essentially what we're considering sort of like the proposed audit standards, and then we want to dry run them. So we'll be reaching out to the private plan employer community to sort of say, hey, look, win-win, we can test drive our standards, make sure that they're actually consistent with the way things operate and that we're not asking for things that don't exist in the real world. And you can kind of get a preview and kind of no prejudice look at how you're running so you can get better. So that's our goal, to be in a position to do that in sort of by the middle of next month, and then be able to finalize the audit standards to bring back to the committee and the board for public comment. So any questions about where we are in the audits? It's a very interesting world that we're delving into, and we'll keep you updated.
Excellent. Thank you, Aaron. All right. Next up is any old business.
Excuse me, I wanted to let the committee know that from our last meeting to this one, we did submit the wage adjustments to HR, to state HR, so those will be effective retro to 1/1/2022.
Thank you, Andrea. Any new business? All right. And lastly, our adjournment. Motion to adjourn.
So
I'll
moved.
make a motion. Oh,
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Ava. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Everyone have a great day. Happy March 1.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.